This is Business Rockstars. From the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, I'm Greg Greenberg. My guest today, John Ziglar. He is the CEO of ParkMobile. Welcome, John.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
All right. I'm glad to have you here because you've solved the most intractable, the toughest problem known to mankind, parking in New York City. Tell me how you do it.
Sure. You know, we're really all about mobility for a person in their vehicle. And the most difficult thing that people do every time they drive their car is to park. So we really enable people to find a parking spot and then pay for it with a mobile app instead of going to a meter to pay with quarters or use your credit card at a multi-space unit. And
tell me about your journey, because you were an investment banker before you got into the parking business, and then all of a sudden, ParkMobile actually got bought out by BMW. So take me all the way.
Sure. So it's kind of a long story, but really I started out as a banker out of college. And, you know, I spent all of my time raising money to help people build great businesses that they love doing, that they love building. And I just wanted to do that. And so I decided to jump to the other side, as it were, and entered into technology startups back in '98 in San Francisco. And
that was the tech bubble. People forget about that bubble, but it was pretty bubbly.
It was very, very bubbly. So yeah, I entered right at a great time, actually. Went in technology companies, went through the crash, went back to law school, and then jumped right back in feet first. So I've never looked back.
And then how'd you find ParkMobile?
Sure. Well, they really found me. I'd been at two prior companies that we had done some pretty good work at and some turnarounds. One of the companies I was at just prior to ParkMobile, Ceridian, just went public actually 2 weeks ago. We're very excited. And I'd left Ceridian, and they found me. And really, it's a great business. We have 9 million consumers around the U.S. that use us every day. And that combined with technology is something that I'm really passionate about.
And then talk about the BMW sale. That's a big thing.
Sure. You know, a lot of people wonder why a car company would want to buy a company like ParkMobile. We are really about personal vehicular mobility. Right now, we cover over 350 cities across the U.S., enabling people to pay for parking through their phone. But what we're really about is enabling a car or a person in a car to procure any service, whether it's parking, whether it's charging, ultimately fueling. And so as these car companies are looking at what is the next 100 years of mobility going to be, they're realizing that it's not just selling boxes with wheels, it is actually selling mobility.
So I don't have to own a BMW because I'm an overeducated, underpaid reporter. I don't have to own a BMW to use your service, right?
Absolutely not.
All right, so talk about, a little bit about how scary it was to jump into this business, because you could have made a whole lot of money if you stayed on Wall Street. So talk about, when you jump into a tech startup, what it means.
Yeah, banking was never really for me to begin with. I think I worked harder and harder to buy bigger and better toys that I never had time to play with. Jumping out of what someone would call a very safe career was actually not all that scary if you're miserable doing what you do. And I've found that if you're passionate about what you do and you love it, you're actually a lot safer.
And when you look for a hire, how do you find that passion? Because I assume a lot of folks, they say, this is a hot tech startup, I want to work for them and get the options. But how do you know that they're in it for the passion, for the right reasons?
Yeah, and that's a tough one, actually. I mean, we're very fortunate to be an employer of choice, and to have a lot of buzz around that. We're really focused when we look at hiring on clearly technical skills and capabilities are sort of the cost of entry, almost like a high SAT score to even sort of get through the gate. But then it really comes down to culture, and it comes down to a shared passion for our vision of what mobility in the next 50 years is going to look like and what our role needs to be in driving that.
All right, we're going to talk more about that when we come back. This is Business Rockstars. I'm Greg Greenberg from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. My guest, John Ziglar from ParkMobile. More with him when we come back. This is Business Rockstars. From the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, I'm Greg Greenberg. We're back with John Ziglar. He is the CEO of ParkMobile. All right, welcome back, John. And you got to tell me, is it safe to look for a parking spot and be on your phone trying to find a spot at the same time? How does it actually work?
So it's a great question.
Is that dangerous?
It is not dangerous for a couple of reasons. We really came up with the company because parking is something that's technology that's 100 years old. People are still putting coins into meters half the time. But as far as how it works, for us, we do a bunch of things. One is we actually can show you in our app where there's parking available on street so you can navigate to it better. And you'd look at a stoplight or something to know, hey, I'm going to avoid 12th Street, but I'm going to go over to 14th and I have a better shot of finding parking there. Second of all, the way our app works is that once you've parked, then you begin the parking session. So you've already gone there. We also enable people to reserve parking in off-street garages or major sports venues, and we do that all over the country. And in that case, we actually make it safer because we will navigate you directly through your phone or the navigation in your car to your ramp.
All right, so give me an example. I want to go see a concert in Madison Square Garden or somewhere. Yep. I got my phone, I'm driving down there. What do I do? How do I use ParkMobile? Sure,
so you pull out the ParkMobile app. You will open it up, obviously. You'll hit the reservations button, which enables you to see all the parking garages in New York City that you can reserve parking in. You'll search for Madison Square Garden. It'll show you and the time you want to be there, show you all the garages around there. You hit the garage, you reserve parking, and you go there.
Does anybody else do this? What's the competitive environment like?
Sure. So there are a couple of companies out there that do focus on mobile parking. Nobody does the ability to reserve and do event parking, as well as park on street. We're the only ones that do it across airports, venues, over 350 cities exclusively around the country, so we do all of it for everyone.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned building ParkMobile? Is it that people actually park far away and walk to the venue? Yeah. Or what other lessons have you learned building this company out? Must be interesting to actually studying people's parking habits, the way they make concentric circles around to try and find a spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the things we've learned are, one, that industries that have been around as long as parking, with as much hardware on the street, like payphones, for instance,
right,
are hard to move. And so it takes a little while. The other is that consumer behavior is a little harder to move than normal. I would never go to a movie now without having a seat reserved in the theater, but people don't think about that when they get in their car. And so our job is to start getting them to think about that before they get into their vehicle.
So what are you innovating on next? What's the future of parking?
Sure. So we actually just did last year, we integrated fully into all BMW models. So now any BMW car, if you reserve parking in an app, the car itself will navigate you to parking. It also will start its own parking session on street, so I don't even need to push a button. So what we want to do is create parking and mobility for cars completely frictionlessly. And so that's the next iteration is, I don't even think about parking anymore. It does it for me.
And what's the next step or the future for John Ziglar? Are you going to start another company? You want to help grow this one out? What's your plan?
We've had a great run at ParkMobile, and we're growing faster every year than we were the year before, despite our size. It would be hard for me to find a company that is changing something that people fundamentally do every day as a way of life. So I'd say it'd be pretty hard to find something more exciting than this.
So you're still having fun. You left investment banking because you were miserable. You wanted to be in a fun company. This is fun.
Every time we make a change, 9 million people see it. It's pretty cool.
All right, well, thanks a lot for coming on and talking about
it. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching Business Rockstars from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Greg Greenberg. Thanks for watching.